The government of Cameroon has announced it is folding sleeves to conduct the country's fourth population and housing census, with the last one dating back to 2005. And while it is acceptable that knowledge of a country's demographics helps in guiding development ventures, eyebrows are rising nonetheless over the 28 billion CFA francs budgeted for the undertaking. And elsewhere, while the government continues dispatching emissaries to go explain the contours and impacts of the ongoing Anglophone crisis abroad, uncompromising leaders of the self-rule struggle are refining tactics to spoil the back-to-school drive in English-speaking Cameroon. Kindly make yourselves comfortable as we launch deliberations in an instant. So you may want to note that wearing the colors of Argentina's national football team in the Northwest region precisely may be very problematic for you. So Elie Smith reports from the Northwest Regional Headquarters, and that's how I say welcome to you.
Thank you.
And that which inform us that a man wearing the Argentina national football team shirt was picked up two days ago, and his whereabouts remain unknown.
Yes, simply because
this is disturbing.
Very disturbing indeed. It also means that the government has become paranoid. The thing is, it seems as if, in their view, the Argentine's national T-shirt or JC is akin to the flag of Southern Cameroons. That's the reason why he was picked up, and that's the reason why I also tweeted that these days in the Northwest and Southwest region, you should be careful about the coloring you put on, because it might land you straight into jail. And it is not a good thing that the government should act the way it's acting.
So some are blaming that incident on overzealousness from some security officers in that part of the country, and some say it could, culminate in some kind of provocation.
Yeah, it is
even as the government seeks for ways to get kids back to school in September.
It is a recipe.
Things should not happen.
Sure, it's a recipe for distraction or for insurrection. But I beg to differ with you that I don't think the government is sincere in her desire for schools to resume. If you want classes to resume, the prerequisite, as I've always said it, and I'm saying again, is for those who have been arrested to be free. Because the people of this country, I mean the people of West Cameroon and even of East Cameroon, know how dishonest this government is. Their only bargaining chip is for them to stay off. And we want children to go to school. I want children to go to school, but the government has to be sincere. If you want classes to resume, allow all those who have been arrested to be free to find their way out. Some
actually say that's a kind of concession that will pave definitive ways to a way out of the current crisis. Kejang Henry, it's a pleasure. I thought you were traveling to your native Libialem division in the southwest, no?
Well, of course, I was supposed to leave, but you know how traveling means, or what traveling means these days. But I will still have to travel to show my compassion with those aggrieved and disillusioned families struck by the landslide.
Another landslide, we remember the Wabane landslide a couple of, about a decade ago. I worked with the Herald back then. Yes. But now that's not why I'm greeting you and welcoming you on board. The reason is, have you heard disturbing information that Cameroonians, and some of these may be people from the Libialem division with dual nationalities who are coming home, are being arrested at airports and turned back on the planes? Have you
yes, I've gathered quite a lot of information on that, and I was not very comfortable, and I needed to find more, to lose more into it. And I got to understand that there is one guy who came from Germany who is presently in the monkey house, because I learned that particular guy has a license In fact, he has a license gone, authorized license, and he was picked up and for suspicion of belonging to what they call the Southern Cameroon's National Council. Amongst others that we've learned, and many more are saying they want to come home, but the information that they are gathering from others who have been, should I say, repatriated back to Europe, the information is very disturbing to them.
Okay.
There are those who cannot even send money because they think the money that they will send home or the money that they send home is to sponsor certain terrorist acts. And I have the information from a certain family that sends money, about 3 million francs, to complete a family building, and that money was never given to the family. The money was withdrawn back in the United States from the bank.
Elie Smith,
which is very disturbing.
You would agree that, I mean, we're going to have Regina Leke come on board in the next couple of minutes with our trender for today. But Elie Smith, you must agree with us that in times like these, suspicion is bound to rise every now and then.
Of course, yes. Suspicion is bound to.
And that security is supposed to be stepped up.
Of course, yes. To say the contrary is being dishonest on my part. Any normal country will step up its security, and then there's also going to be a kind of schizophrenia that is going around and paranoia on the part of the security forces. It's very normal. But what the security forces have to do is to win the hearts and minds of the people. I don't
that way they can work in collaboration.
Exactly, because if you just go around, cast a large net to catch everybody, then you're going to be getting wrong people in it, and people are not going to be collaborative and help. So I think the government needs to be calm and then try to win the hearts and minds of people of Southern Cameroons.
Kejang, Henry, for once, I think some of our viewers will be asking, has Elie collected?
No, no. That is an issue of balance.
All right.
Sometimes when there's an iota of success, say it was successful.
Give to Caesar exactly what is Caesar's.
And I remember the last time, very quickly, he said, well, I think that is one small good that President Biya has done, and so we should congratulate him for that. That doesn't necessarily mean that he is against Biya, but it was an ideological analysis that he made, which is to strike the balance.
And like I always say, Toughtalk is not there to rejoice over government's failings and failures. We are out to give you the truth, as blunt as it may sound. We'll be back in a jiffy, and when we come back, Eddy Etawo will be joining us for our first major sticking point in this other edition of Toughtalk. Don't you go away. So the government of Cameroon has announced plans to spend 28 billion CFA francs to bankroll the country's fourth population and housing census. The operation is to be enacted by the Ministry of the Economy, Planning and Regional Development, which additionally says, and this is interesting, Elie Smith, that it has so far spent 7 billion to prepare for the takeoff of the census process.
Great.
That sounds too much.
That sounds too much, and I don't know where they're going to get the money from to carry out the census. In reality, census is good in every country, so that we can, if you have an accurate count of the population, you can accurately plan to solve problems with some success anyway. Okay. But the thing with the census in Cameroon and in most African countries is is simple, that they are almost always wrong.
Inflated
or deflated, and then you have this gerrymandering taking place on it. So it's a good thing, but I could remember my last recollection of a census in Cameroon was in 1987. I was still here. So how many people are there in Cameroon? That was the last time I know. Okay. Then I also understand there was another set of census which took place. And that after 2005, and I think it was 3 years later that the actual
which is also rendered public.
Public.
At that time, it was Frederick Augustin Kodok who was
Minister of Planning, whatever. Yes. So the thing is, this is a good thing, but that money is too much. Okay. And I also hope that this time around they're going to come out with really genuine figures, because those they are inflated or tampered figures whereby you say the population of the littoral region or the population of Douala is far lower than the arid, dry north of Cameroon or far north, simply because they want to inflate the population of the far north in order to be rigging elections in this country.
Elie Smith, and I thought you were going to come out or rather drop on a very provocative note, Elie Smith. But Eddy Etawo, it's a pleasure to have you on the panel. It's been long.
Thank you, Divine.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And it's been long coming. This other census for Cameroon, that's the fourth in the country's history.
Yes.
As an independent nation.
It's unfortunate Cameroon has not been able to conduct a census for a very long time. This is a very vital component to the development process of any country, because you need to know the number of not just the global number of people in the country, but the old people, the young people, the
composition of those numbers.
Yeah, it's so that you are able to plan the development of the people.
Now, what would you say explains such a long wait? 2005, 2018, because actually we hear the census may be conducted in 2018.
Difficult.
It's about 12 years or 13 years later.
Difficult to explain. The country is plagued by a number of problems.
Financial,
and I think so. And the Boko Haram crisis in the north, and many other issues. I think and you know, of course, that the country is such that the one that never takes its priority into place. If this country really wants to, is the kind of country that puts its priority into place, I think a census should be one of those primary things that a country should consider if it's really want to develop in the right direction.
Elie Smith, the controversies, and you were actually hitting at them a couple of minutes ago, the controversies in the Kodok released a census report in 2005. In fact, you said they were released 3 years later on. Some of the controversies include the fact, for example, that Douala had a lesser population than Marwa.
Exactly.
Or Yaoundé.
Exactly. And that thing just smacked what happened in Nigeria. One thing I want to say is that to the discharge of Cameroon, it is not the only country in Africa with fictitious statistics. And saying that doesn't mean that I have any problem. I'll give an example first.
Why would these statistics be deliberately tampered with?
2 reasons. One is political, because population is power. Yes. And the other is economical.
You can get more loans from the World Bank.
Exactly. For example, a country like Congo Brazzaville that is about a 1.5 million, it suddenly overnight became 4 million. Cameroon, they also lie in the population of Cameroon. We claim to be 22 million, but I want to challenge anybody to show. I think we are beneath 23 million. I think so. And for example, in Nigeria, when the population of Kano, when there was a census, I forgot the year exactly, and Kano was populated than Lagos. I think 1 year later, another one was conducted in Lagos, and Lagos became 17 million. That's the problem. I mean, that's the problem of power politics in Nigeria. Population means power. Now, coming to Cameroon, that was really a big joke that the far north, that I know very well, Marua, that I know very well, can be more populated than Douala. Kodok did it simply then because he wanted to satisfy Biya and the regime, because they always lie in terms of population. For example, can you explain to me the logic in it that the South region, they claim it is 600,000 people, but it's a lie. It can be about 300,000 people in the South region.
That's as per the last census.
Exactly. And you also, the reason is that when I say it's political this time around, is simply because on political aspect is that when you inflate the number of population from a certain area, you invariably increase their numbers of representatives in parliament. And when you have a regime like ours, incompetent, lying, always constantly wanting to cheat, so it is normal to have a number of people who will be supporting all the lines and the misrule that you want to perpetuate. That's the reason why they lie.
That is kind of paradoxical, Eddy Etawo, because why should the South region, with a lesser population than probably the Northwest region, count many more MPs in the House of Representatives?
Well, as you said, the South region has more MPs in the House of Parliament than the Northwest region. This is, as he says, a political plan, you know, to give more seats. It's more seats, and what backs those seats is the fictitious figures put in place by the regime in power to back up.
In other words, who loses in an arrangement like this?
No,
who loses? Is it the government losing credibility in the eyes of the same people it counts? No, or is it the Northwest region, for example, losing? I mean, what do you even gain from having more representation in Parliament?
No, the Northwest region loses. Naturally, if you are naturally endowed with a thick population, you should benefit from the fruits of that population. I don't see why a Northwest region bustling with such a population should be, you know, should be treated in that way. So I believe that all in all, a region that is treated in that way suffers. And the South, parliamentarians go along with parliamentary grants, go along with a lot of money.
All right.
And in that way, I mean, if you look at Akwaya, for instance, with just one MP, but if you go to, with a population of about 60,000 people, but go to the South, a constituency can just be about 4,000 or 5,000 people with the same amount of money. So you see, those who go in for those political gimmicks know what they gain, and I think the power, the people, the CPDM regime knows what it is doing, and it is profiting a lot from those brands.
And some have been saying that if this Cameroonian policy of regional balance or equilibrium or whatever name you give it were not in place, then regions of the country with the highest number of intellectuals and technocrats, Elie Smith, should be the ones benefiting the most?
No, that is
from the national cake?
No, you are trying to pull, anyway, it's your role divine, right? You are trying to pull a veil or trying to remove the discussion from the reality. It has nothing to do with the number of educated people or not. This is what, to the discharge of Cameroonian, of Paul Biya, he has invented nothing. This type of dirty politics happen in the United States. You have what is called gerrymandering.
Yes.
Wherever he discovered that he was about to fail an election, he decided to redraw the constituency. Let's say it bluntly. Paul Biya, for example, in the South region, if a small, tiny village called Zawetele has become whatever it is, I think they have 3, 4, 5 ministers. 4 or 5 ministers. Then a large locality such as Akwaya has only a lone MP, simply because since the regime is a tribal, corrupt regime going on, they want to put people, and first of all is that even that Zoetele and those who are elected are not even elected, they are appointed. The reason is that they're playing with the representative in parliament is simply because, I want to say, it's a cesspool of corruption. They want to perpetuate a system. They know that if you have in Akwaya or in Manfe or in Victoria a number of MPs, there are likelihood that people who will be elected will not be in their favor. So that's the reason why they are lying. It's a pure lie. There's no iota of truth in that. Yes, sir.
I'll stick on to the question, and the question remains this one. Should regions with the highest number of intellectuals and technocrats, Eddy Etawo, benefit most from the national cake?
I think...
Which means that if a region spends its money sending its offspring and siblings to school, they should only reap the fruit of that investment.
I perfectly agree with that. But for national planification, I think I would see something good in some kind of regional planning, such that if there are 10 people to go in for a particular job, I think the most qualified from all the regions should be given the opportunity to, you know, to vie for that post and to qualify for it.
Isn't that where the danger comes in, Elie Smith? Because, well, some say Northern Cameroon hasn't got as many educated people. I mean, it's going to be imbalance in the number of administrators and
Okay.
Whoever you has managed
The problem of Northern Cameroon, they have been ruling this country for too long. That's the same problem they have in Nigeria. They have been ruling, but the problem is they have a feudal system that they don't want to educate their people, and hence what you have this disequilibrium in the way you have a number of people of Northern Cameroon being educated. But there's a problem. I want to beg that we need to have what is called affirmative action. If we want to...
That sounds more American than African.
Yeah, than African. Even here, we can have a system whereby, because if we allow some regions, like let's say things correctly. Okay. In Cameroon, for example, the northwest and the west region, you have a crop of people who are very enterprising. Okay? If now you want to say, all right, because they are more enterprising, you are going to give them everything, is not good. You need to protect minorities. You need to try to make an equilibrium in things. So I will not support the fact that if you want to do anything, because the most intelligent, the most hardworking, no, at least even in the Bible, you need to bring people who are weaker up. But as far as people of the north are concerned, the greater north of Cameroon, they have a problem. It's not only the north of Cameroon. In the north of Nigeria, they have been governing in Nigeria for too long. Some of them even say, born to rule. That is even the motto of Sokoto State, right? So in Cameroon, they have that same tendency. They don't send their children to school. They don't want to work, but they want to benefit from everything. It's not the same thing all over.
Yes, Elie.
Not to cut you short, but I believe that in order to respect and foster talent, it is good that those who merit should actually be compensated for. Because when you do what you're trying to, when you push what you're trying to push too far, you destroy talent. You see, because I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. In 1990, I'll just give you an example. When Cameroon went furthest to the World Cup, 9 of those players in the field were Bassas.
Yeah, because the Bassas are very good footballers.
But imagine they said, okay, now let us put one from the north.
That's a beautiful angle to the debate now.
That would have, we would not have gone. So I would rather suggest that for a developing country like us, let us go for the talents and reward them adequately.
In other words, the Northern Cameroon, for example, will be stranded. It will be deprived of potable water, electricity, and so on, because you need to give merit where it is due first.
No, I'm talking of what I'm referring to is jobs, appointments, and so on. But when it comes to sharing the national cake, I think it should be equitably distributed, based on certain canons which should be put in place for regional balance.
Okay. Now, Louis-Paul Motaze, who is Cameroon's Minister of the Economy, Planning and Regional Development, his ministerial department is actually in charge of enacting the census whenever it begins in 2018. He says, Elie, and this is interesting, even before the census proper begins, 7 billion CFA francs have already been spent on mere preparatory works. That's raising eyebrows. Is it raising yours?
Isn't that a lump sum? And what have they done with the 7 billion? Let him just be correct and honest with us that he and his people must have eaten that money. Because where have they kept 7 billion? That's a lot of money.
He says the money has gone into a census mapping. That's a kind of dividing the country into single units to be served by one census agent.
Okay, I can understand.
The entire country, right?
Brilliant. Those things you need just to call people from Google Map and they'll do it for you, and it's not going to cost 7 billion. So I want to think that he's just lying as people are lying. You know, in this country, in this regime, they always seize every bit and pieces of opportunity to steal money. So how would you use 7 billion? Is it not a shame to float that type of idea up? No, I would bring Google Map, you can do it.
My problem is I would not bother very much about the lump sum of money.
You would bother about?
I would bother if the work is properly done or not. If that money, you know what the canons of a proper census are. You know, you divide the people into ages, into groups, and so on, and give us the real numbers, something that will be permanent for a very long time.
But you spent 7 billion CFA francs preparing for that?
No, I don't know. The
head count is not on.
It's a contract. You don't know how they did it, but I don't care very much about money. I care about the quality of the work. I will be very, very, very annoyed or disappointed with these figures if in the end the work is not properly executed.
Elie Smith, does it bother you, and I'm curious, that the census announced will happen before or in 2018, that's an election year?
Yeah, my fear, it bothers me.
Is there a catch in there?
Yes, it bothers me. First of all, under my premise, I don't believe in them. So I don't see why it should come within the fringes on the borders of an electoral period. Now, it now feels me comfortable. I've been vindicated. I'm being vindicated that why have they chosen 2018? Because they want to rig the elections. They want to redo the mapping. And to do the remapping, for Christ's sake, 7 billion is too much. What they would have done, you just take Google Earth and do something. You have localization. It is kind of suspicious that they have waited this long, and just by the time we are going toward 2018, hence they just bring up, that is the period they have decided to bring up this thing, which is kind of suspicious for a government that has no credibility.
As far as I'm concerned,
Briefly,
I don't think that census is going to take place, because the government right now, as a matter of fact,
It's broke.
It's broke, and it is with its back on the wall, given the imminent withdrawal of the African Nations Cup, which is just next door.
You're the one saying it. Nobody has said they're going to withdraw it.
I like that, Eddie.
The eminent, because apparently, I don't want to go into that detail, but from what the declaration of the highest authority of that body, I think you can see that
his deputy actually came back on it and noted that well, the CAF president Ahmed actually drew inspiration from the Cameroonian media.
Yeah, but whatever is the case, my problem is that what Cameroon has to do between now and 2019 is too much for the money it has.
And how do you conduct census in a nation where Boko Haram has not stopped attacking, where the Anglophones are vexed, and where there are upheavals in the eastern part of the country? Instability still prevails, Elie.
Yeah, which means that it cannot hold, it will not be accurate, because how will you go to the far north, places like Kolofata or Mayo Sava? I think Kolofata is the capital of Mayo Sava.
Constantly bombarded.
Yeah, where 80% is under control of Boko Haram.
Thousands have been displaced.
Thousands have been displaced, so it's difficult. Or in the East region, or even in West Cameroon, whereby everybody who sees you who comes from Yaoundé and speaking Bulu or French is going to be regarded with suspicion.
Or they take to the bushes.
Exactly. So I think that it's not going to be something genuine
It boils down to the fact that some figures will come out, but it will not be something
representative
really
enough of
Cameroon's fictitious figures. Yes, once again.
If they want it, something fictitious will come out.
Okay.
But that is exactly what Cameroonians will not be expecting.
So we're about 30 minutes after the hour. We'll take a break and welcome Regina Leke. She's coming up with our trending topic for this edition. She'll be here in a minute. So she's here, finally, and she's come with her usual radiance. Welcome, Leke, Miss Leke.
Thank you very much, Divine, for
I'm
having
actually
me.
supposed to call you Gina, right?
Yes, Gina.
Are you also sharing compassion, well, spiritual, maybe compassion with the people back in your village, where you come from?
Yes.
The other landslide?
Yes, exactly. I mean, I learned about the landslide that occurred in Esoata, part of Libialem, and so many cocoa farmlands were destroyed, and there are so many people who are homeless right now, and they are taking refuge in a certain Catholic church in that part of the country. So I'm just sending out warm greetings to the people of Libialem division, and my heartfelt sympathy to the people of Esoata.
And no lives were lost.
Well, no lives were lost, but there is apparently a certain notable who went missing, and they are still looking for him, and they are praying that they should find him alive. But
Okay.
it's 4 days already, so we don't know.
So from the southwest, you are taking us to the northwest and precisely to Mbengui.
Yes, actually.
The heat is on.
Yes, actually, Mbengui is trending today, and I would just like to seize the opportunity to send a big shout out to all those who are watching us from Mbengui. We have huge fan base in Mbengui, chief town of the Momo division.
Correct.
Yeah. Actually, we are getting reports that the town, there's some kind of panic going on in the town, especially following the arrest of 5 men and a lady who were in possession of some firearms, explosives, and all that. So yesterday, the Minister of Communication, Government spokesperson Issa Chiroma Bakari, he faced the press to give an account, to give government's account of what happened in Mbengui. And according to what he said between the 2nd and the 3rd of August, security forces of the Northwest region descended
on a routine raid.
Yes, on a routine raid, because you would agree with me that since you know, the advent of the Anglophone crisis, there has been security, I don't know if I'll say security concerns.
Controls and, you know,
yes, especially given that some, you know, establishments, schools, markets are set ablaze and all of that. So the government has been trying to, you know, get hold of some of the perpetrators, and on this fateful day, or day 2nd and 3rd of August, they got hold of a man whose name we got at Dasi Alfred, and he's supposedly the leader of a group known as Southern Cameroon's Liberation Movement. And they found a huge chunk of explosives in his bunker, his residence over there in Mbengui. And they said there were 5 of them actually. There were 5 other men and a lady. I would just like to, with your permission, give the names.
Go ahead. So
according to the report of Issa Chiroma Bakari, we have Mbaabe Edwin Ndasi. We also have Tefe Collins Tege. We have Fu Lutan Che. We have Ngwa Louise Monyonga. We also have the lone lady in the group, Martha Formeniam. And according to Issa Chiroma Bakari, when the police raided the home of this Dasi Alfred, who is also known as the sniper.
All right.
Yes, they also found some of the explosives they found included a semi-automatic firearms, night vision devices.
Night vision devices,
yes,
right? Which means you can use them to see in the night.
Exactly. They also got hold of shooting goggles, gun charges for snipers, container of explosives, and also they found a laptop which contained information on how to manufacture explosives. According
to Minister Issa Chiroma Bakari, Ndasi has actually admitted that he works for the Southern Cameroon's army. Now, there's every reason, Eddy Etawo, yes, because I was reading a copy of the Post newspaper this morning, and it is raising an alarm that the Northwest and Southwest regions are being remilitarized. In circumstances like this, what should the government do? Send troops?
No, I think sending troops, it will be it will not be, that will not be the thing to do at this point in time. The government should take its time.
And while you're taking your time, the army is building its attack machine.
No, the attack machine should be such that it should work basically on clear-cut information.
All right.
Yes. Bringing in, militarizing the area would not, would make the life very, very uncomfortable for the people. I think if the government really wants to make the people of the Northwest and Southwest region to feel at home and to try to recover from the shock which they had during the past events that happened last year, this idea
since October 2016.
Yes, sending in militaries once more would be very,
complicate the situation and compromise the back-to-school mobilization.
Yeah,
now you've got your bread. Gina?
Yes, no, just some additional information that this Dasi Alfred, he resides in a foreign country and actually has nationality of that country.
Which country are we talking about?
From what we got, Belgium.
All right.
Yes, and
it is in the same Belgium, and this may be a coincidence, but I'm not sure we're mistaken, that Minister Laurent Esso
was nearly beaten.
Was humiliated the way he was.
Yes, and from what the Minister Chiroma said, that Dasi Alfred, when he was asked, where did you get your weapons from, he confessed that he got the weapons from abroad and actually transported them through neighboring countries and brought it
Nigeria?
into... well, I can't really confirm that.
Okay.
He just said a neighboring country and brought them into Cameroon, and that they were actually planning to attack a police checkpoint. And of course, as you may know, security meetings have been held by the governor of the Northwest region, Lele Lafrique, to try to dismantle this gang. If at all there are other members still hiding somewhere.
Personally, would you say yes, are there other members?
Well, I don't know. I know that issues like that, there's always like a connection of people. I don't know, they're informal. There could be a network, but well, let's see what their investigations are going to bring up.
I think the government has all it takes to, you know, to
demask, unmask, and smoke out.
Unmask all this. And what I would want the government to stay clear of is not to send in troops again, to provoke the people and make things difficult for the children going back to school, because I'm really very concerned.
Yes, I think what he's saying is quite correct, because there is already panic in the town of Mbengui, and with people are afraid to even leave their homes because they are afraid that they might be arrested, that they're linked in one way or the other to the Dasi guy or his group. So as he's saying, I think remilitarizing at the town might not be a good option, because it will only help to increase this fear that already exists in the town and make the back to school movement more difficult.
Okay. Thanks once again, Gina. We'll be back with you in a minute, but let's take a break. And then when we come back, no, not you, Elie Smith will be taking your place, because we have the SDF, National Executive Committee resolutions of August the 5th, lined up for you in a moment. So, Nijon Frundi, chairman of Cameroon's leading opposition Social Democratic Front, the SDF party, says he is not hostile to the idea of schools resuming across the English-speaking northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon come September, but demands that the necessary measures be taken to ensure an enabling environment. Speaking at an August 5 National Executive Committee conclave in Bamenda, at Tarikon precisely, he squarely blamed President Paul Biya for aggravating the deteriorating situation and then called for that's Paul Biya's resignation. Eddy Etawo, and you don't need glasses to see that that's a far cry. President Paul Biya will definitely not listen to Frundi. He will not resign.
No, President Paul Biya is a man who lost power and would like to stay on for as much as possible. But I think Frundi should have known this, because they are very close friends.
Is he preaching in the wilderness in this case?
I think, as a matter of fact, yes. I think Frundi should have known this better than any other person, that his friend, Paul Biya, would lost power and would like to...
I don't know what you put in there, friends. I mean, how do you mean friends?
But
Frundi and Paul Biya.
I mean, you see them working hand in glove, almost in every aspect. Just that when it comes, Frundi comes out sometimes to make such declarations. But as a matter of fact, Frundi is not as hostile to President Paul Biya like he used to be. So there's some underground understanding.
That's a suspicion.
But Frundi had never entered the Unity Palace previously, but
before 1992.
Yes, but
I think you're correct.
They meet. He was in Vomeka. He's always in the Unity Palace. So there are certain things that make them work together. But overtly, when it comes to things like this, a reaction like this, we could be friends. But when a reaction comes like this, I come out overtly to disagree with you. That does not mean that on the ground we can't meet and talk things which
That's called the political tactics. Now, Elie Smith, according to a release from the August 5 National Executive Committee conclave of the SDF, the responsibility of resolving the Anglophone crisis lies squarely on President Paul Biya's shoulders.
It is absolutely correct, but before I could respond, would you permit me to do a kind of not a correction, my own point of view? I don't think Paul Biya and Frundi have any underground connection, whatever. I think in a democracy, and I think you have to know it, he is the leader of the largest extra and intra-parliamentary opposition, which means that they have an ideological difference. They are not enemies. It is not a bad thing for the head of the opposition to meet with the President of the Republic. It's not a bad thing for the head of the opposition to go even to invoke Mika.
I think what it
is a very good thing.
I'm not buying his case
yes.
in this matter. I think what Eddy is saying
They're going
is
to say they are friends.
Prior to 1992, Nijon Frundi had never been spotted at Unity Palace, for example, but the frequency of his presence
in Vomeka?
No, not Vomeka. I
at
can
the
only
presidency.
talk about the presidency of the Republic at A2D in Yaoundé.
During the agriculture
sure, yeah, he went.
He was in the
I see, personally, I see nothing bad in it. I think that is an evolution in our democracy, which is, it has a kind of stunted growth.
Would you call it democratic maturity?
A petty maturity, not major maturity. Because the thing is that in the 90s, when you were a member of the SDF, it is as if you have signed your death warrant. I know people who have died in this country because of a member of the SDF. Dr. Takuju Christophe, I know him very well. He is dead. Suleiman Mahamad, he is dead. You can name a number of people who got killed in this country simply because they were members of the SDF. But good. Now, if you see an evolution whereby a criminal-oriented government is now open to speak with a person that they discover as an adversary, we need to salute it and we need to encourage it. We need to have ideological differences and not enmity.
No, what I said was that I think they are moving more closer now than before, and that he should know him.
Because your insinuations, when you say he should know him, you are kind of telling us that, well, they are pals and they are trying to deceive us. They are trying to play a game.
No.
That's my understanding.
In other words,
you missed the point.
Insinuating that they are political bedmates. But Elie Smith, you are not answering the question.
Yeah, I will answer, please.
Is the responsibility for resolving the current crisis squarely on the shoulders of President Biya?
100% yes, because he is a kind of, he's myopic. He has a yam and a knife. If he wanted these problems, because there are a number of them, to be solved, he would have done it, but he doesn't want to do it.
Okay, Eddy, isn't it unfair that the attacks on the president of this sort are a bit exaggerated, considering that he has made a number of concessions so far? He's created a section for the common law at INAM, at the Supreme Court. He's created the Multiculturalism and Bilingualism Commission, and so on and so forth.
But the president should do just what is necessary.
What is necessary?
What is necessary is the release of these people, for whatever reason, the release of these detainees. In fact,
Amos Fofong of the Guardian Post, am I correct, has been released. He was one of the detainees, for example.
But I mean, those are not the detainees we are talking about. We are talking about detainees like Agbobala and the teacher
and Fontaine.
These are the people who were on the dialoguing table with. And today, if the president of this country, if the government of this country, by instructions from the government, from the president, are taking the measures to do, which means that these people actually, expressed what was going wrong in the country.
Okay.
And I don't think if you realize that what somebody is saying is correct, and in the interest and the general interest of the people, you keep him in jail. I think the president of this country should release these people if he really wants
to pave the path for constructive dialogue.
Yes.
Well, Elie Smith, how can Frundi claim that the situation has not sufficiently captured the attention of President Paul Biya after all of these concessions I mentioned a while ago?
Simply because those concessions are cosmetics. So Frundi is not, he is a politician, he knows the reality. The thing is to concur with what Eddy has just said. Well, all those things which you think is a kind of extraordinary thing he has done, were initiated simply because the individual that he has thrown them behind bars, were clamoring for it. Why would you decide to implement something when those who initiated it are not there on the table? You do it unilaterally. No, that's the reason why Frundi is absolutely correct through and through, that Paul Biya is a person who is responsible for what is going on in Cameroon. And I understand the reason why he's doing such a thing. He wants to act like Jerry Elbridge, the former governor, where we have this gerrymandering. He's a very vicious man, Paul Biya. He is doing that because there's one, I have a colleague here, his name is Anani Binji Rabie.
Of Canal.
He's alive. You can bring, oh, he doesn't speak English, for Christ's sake. He said, Paul Biya, when he was the prime minister of this country, when Ayijo wanted to end the federal system, Paul Biya was against it. Why is it that a man who was against something now seems to be the one even exaggerating than his mentor? So Frundi is 100% correct.
Now, critics of President Paul Biya, including the chairman of the SDF, Nijon Frundi, frowned at his option of strong arm tactics in dealing with the Anglophone crisis. But the same option, the strong arm tactics, have kept Cameroon unified thus far.
You know, you can't talk of genuine unity. That is what we call mechanical unity. That is, you take some pieces of iron and tie them together. This is not the kind of unity we expect from Cameroonians. We expect a kind of unity that wells from the heart, that you accept the government because it is doing well and you are appreciative of what it is doing. Not simply, people are simply abiding and doing certain things because they are fear that they will be picked up and thrown behind the bar, not because they are doing it as patriots and because they love their country. Okay. This is a very dangerous situation because in the near future it could explode to some limits which to some level that cannot be controlled. I mean, unity should be unity that wells from the heart. Okay. Not because military people are placed here and there to cohese people to do what ordinarily they would not do.
Some say that's dictated unity. Okay. Elie Smith, the chairman, caps it up by blasting the foreign missions and emissaries deployed by the government to go and explain the contours of the crisis to the Cameroonian diaspora as well as foreign government. He says it's a sheer waste of taxpayers' money. But he frowns vehemently, and that's a question, Elie, at what he terms social media bullies who are lambasting the SDF stance on the form of federalism that Cameroon should adopt in the aftermath of the ongoing crisis. Well, remember he is for a four-state deal.
He is for four-state federalism, right? Well, okay, there's no problem with that. My problem with the stand of the four-state federalism is that the Southwest and the Northwest should be one. Now, if he wants to create the Grand Sanaga Maritime State or whatever, there's no problem. He can do that. But now when he frowns at the social media bullies, well, he should understand that he is a Democrat. And when you are a Democrat, you need to accept contradictions. Well, the other thing is that without those social media so-called bullies, would he have been able to see how the Minister of State of the Keeper of, what is that, Laurent Esso, was being humiliated and thrown under the bus when he was in Belgium? Would he have seen how the ministers who went to South Africa and thought that since Cameroonians like to wine and dine, they will arrest their brothers, humiliate, kill some of them and throw them in the jails of Cameroon, and when they come to South Africa, they will eat and drink and dance? No, I think Frundi is wrong. He's absolutely wrong to say that or want to be attacking the people of social media. Social media is part of the modern communications today, and it needs to be consolidated. I think what SDF needs to understand is that they too should try to modernize. This is the largest intra and extra parliamentary opposition. I wonder whether they're on Twitter, whether they're on Facebook, whether they're on WhatsApp. He has to understand that he also needs to adapt to the modernity. He doesn't need to be insulting them. He doesn't need to frown at them. He needs to use the same tools that they are using, because he should not act like the SCPDM. You know why this government has been beaten hands down is simply because they don't know how to communicate. They are not in the 21st century.
Indirectly, Elie Smith, I can read it from between the lines.
Yes.
You are accusing the chairman of failing to move the SDF from its previous primitivity.
Exactly. What he has to do is that The SDF needs to modernize through and through. Have young people at their communication. When you have old people manning the communication of the SDF who do not know, they don't have, they cannot tweet anything. They don't have a Facebook page. It's just recently that they have a newspaper called SDF Echo. They used to have the Chronicle. They were unable to pay the staff of the paper. It folded. Now they have them, which is good. They already have a paper because the alter ego of the SDF in Ivory Coast is a FPI. FPI have La Voix. It has been there for long. So it was a kind of shame that the SDF never had a newspaper. They have one, but now they have to opt and adapt to modernity. Have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and be on social media, on YouTube.
Okay, Elie, in that release from the August 5 NEC conclave at Darikon in Bamenda, the chairman also calls on his home-based compatriots to shun directives imposed on them by Cameroonians in the diaspora. In other words, the chairman is emphatically at odds with the diaspora. He says, don't listen to them because these are people who have their children comfortably going to school in the US, in Europe, or in Asia, or wherever they may be, and they're telling you not to send your own kids to school, Eddie.
I think I agree with the chairman there, absolutely. Because
isn't that politically suicidal for the future of the SDF?
No, I think there is nothing, once you militate in the interest of the children of a country, you militate for the future of a country. I think that statement from the chairman, it's a futuristic state in the greater interest of the SDF party. Because people cannot be in the diaspora, their children are going to school, they are going about their daily businesses, and they tell other people, don't send their children to school, don't go about their businesses. In solidarity with us, people strike from a distance. In solidarity with us, let them resign from their respective small posts. If they think that we are suffering in Cameroon, if they really identify with us, let the diaspora resign from their little things which they are doing over there, their little businesses and so on. Because when they say ghost towns, they are the ones animating the consortium in this country to
from abroad.
From abroad. They are the ones doing all that.
Fundi says they should come to the war front and face the
Let them come here. Let them not stay there, or they can even stay there and be in solidarity with us. That is, they resign from their job. If you're a university lecturer, you resign. You stay away from.
As a demonstration of solidarity with the struggle on the home front.
Otherwise, you can't be working, having your job.
At least media uncomfortable.
Going about your businesses. And then you tell other people, look, what about people who go, who sell pepper, who sell vegetables? I mean, those people live on those things.
We're coming to the ghost towns in Egypt.
I mean, what I'm saying is that the diaspora should come to the war front. They should come to the war front, or stay there and do to
also us. Declare 3 days of ghost towns every week.
Everywhere, and so that let them see how it pitches.
They'll be knocked off their jobs. I can't be certain about that.
Yeah,
this
so
is not Cameroon
I think the diaspora should give us a break. Yes.
Okay.
If they really want to help us in this crisis, let them come to Cameroon and obey themselves the laws that they want us to obey.
Okay. Elie Smith, we're looking at a difference in ideology here between the chairman and the Cameroonian diaspora. I was saying it is potentially suicidal for the future existence of the SDF?
In the diaspora, yes.
Because he actually needs the diaspora at some point in the future life of the party.
I think I understand that the chairman of the SDF is walking on a tightrope without a safety net underneath, hence he's behaving the way he's behaving. But I think the chairman of the SDF should not, for Christ's sake, forget the role that the diaspora did in sustaining him.
Okay.
Understand? So that's my fear now. Now, on this question where Eddy Etawo was trying to say, okay, the diaspora were not sending their children to school. No, the diaspora are simply supporting an ingrained nativist movement. Nobody invited. For example, nobody said to nobody that don't send your child to school. Okay. People have just decided in solidarity of their brothers and sisters that were kidnapped from West Cameroon, some of them killed and then taken to Yaoundé. Period. Okay. I hope you don't have one of your person who is in detention in Yaoundé. If you have it, then you will now understand the reason why some people are doing that.
I have
if you love Aya who wants to die, Aya is very sick. And do you think that this government is a government that has a kind of an iota of sense where you have somebody who is terminally, who is very sick, like Aya in prison, and you run your mouth here like that?
Absolutely.
No.
We're going to have to leave it there for a while because we have the Lord Mayor of Nkor. He's called Francis Wache, who doubles as publisher of the Post newspaper. We actually had him on Tuesday's edition of the show, and we're going to have him again because we're actually talking about his party, the SDF. Welcome, Lord Mayor.
Hello, Divine. Good morning.
How is remote Nkor doing this morning? That's in the Bui division of the Northwest.
Hello, Divine. Good morning.
I'm not sure we're getting you clean enough, Lord Mayor. Can you take your mouth away from your phone a bit, your microphone on the phone?
Well, it looks like there is a problem at your end also. The network doesn't seem to be...
Okay, now it's cleaner. It's cleaner, Lord Mayor. So we're just going to start asking you the questions. How do you see the future of the SDF with a fallout between the chairman and the Cameroonian diaspora? And I must remind our viewers that you're not talking on behalf of the SDF, but you're only airing your personal views on the questions that we ask you. Hello, Lord Mayor.
I'm on, Divine, I'm listening. Yes, Divine,
Yeah, I'm going to take that question again. Is it dangerous for the SDF to, break up ties with the Cameroonian diaspora? Is it potentially risky?
Well, I do not think that because you disagree with the diaspora on a point, it means that you are breaking, links.
I think we cannot continue, Lord Mayor. It is just so unfortunate that the network can fail us like this. In any case, producer Emmanuel Bivirka will keep struggling to get to you again. And if ever the lines are clean enough, we will bring you back on board. Thanks once again, Lord Mayor, for first of all accepting to share part of your time and your bulk of experience with us. Let's wrap this up. And this is a quote from the SDF conclave at the weekend. We, the SDF, believe that education is life. Parents, teachers, and students are ready for the academic year. But for schools to resume, parents jailed at prisons around the country should be released so they can raise school fees for their children. I'm not sure, Eddy Etawo, how many parents currently in jail have how many children that could, cause a blockade of the schools in the Northwest and Southwest regions?
No, it's just a way of speaking. The people who are in jail are parents. It's just a way of speaking, and that releasing those people, I am of the opinion that those people be released.
Okay.
So that, and I also want the school year to start hitch-free.
Okay.
But I want the diaspora to stay far off from the issues of this country, at least for now.
And that diaspora is going to consider this a sort of provocation Ellie's made, because those in the diaspora who are bankrolling, we all know this, it's open secret now, bankrolling the self-rule struggle in Cameroon, would consider it a provocation that are asking for kids not to be sent back to school, and Fundi, of all cases, is in support of a return to school.
Yes, but I don't, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know anybody in the diaspora who do not want children to go back to school. What the people of the diaspora are saying is that the enabling environment should be there. The person who do not want the school to resume is one man. He's called Paul Biya, period. If Paul Biya wants people to go to school, Aya, who is very sick, and honestly very sick. And the problem now is that these people are playing with fire. Aya is sick. What happens if Aya dies? We are not going to be talking this time, the thing we are talking here.
Just to remind our viewers, and that's where I think we should fit in this information, is that Aya, the son of Aya Paul Abine, was supposed to be on the panel with us for this edition, but he actually rushed away because news came to him that his dad's health was steadily failing.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying this thing, honestly speaking, because I know there are some people, when you say something, they don't want you to say your mind. I have nothing to lose. I say what I think. I think that if you love Cameroon, everybody needs to contribute, whether you're in the diaspora, whatever the orientations or the wordings or the utterances that people make, it's a democracy, we need to accept them. But I think that for classes to resume, I want children to go to school. The diaspora wants children to go to school. But the person that doesn't want people to go to school is called Paul Biya. Simple. He is the one, because if he wanted people to go to school, Aya will be freed. He has done nothing. Aya has done nothing. Fontem's car that was blown up. Who is the terrorist here? Fontem's car was blown up in Boya. Am I lying? You will not? Okay, great. Agbobala, who is not a person who is for secession, for Christ's sake, he is in jail. Mancho BBC, his problem was that the Bamenda Greater City Council is a hideout of corrupt officials. There are no roads, no water, no electricity.
He blew the whistle publicly. And
a whistleblower was whisked and thrown in jail. So who doesn't want school to resume here, for Christ's sake?
Okay. So
are we mad here or what? Who doesn't want school to resume? We should be honest with ourselves. We should be honest.
Like Chairman Nijon Fundi says should be put in place.
So Fundi is right. The SDF is right for once, right? That the SDF says people want to go to school. But the government needs to make people to go to school. The government doesn't want to go to school because the government doesn't want elections. Okay.
Well, I think that would be an overstatement. If you say the government doesn't want to go to school, then that would.
If you want Cameroonian kids to go to school, Eddie, why do you send people to the United States and to Europe to negotiate for our children to go back to school?
No, I think from the information the government is getting, is that maybe people from the diaspora are financing some strikes for people, and that they should try to, that sending people out there to try to tell people that this is what the government is trying to do. Let us go hand in glove, and let us see how the academic year begins effectively. Okay. But I am also of the opinion that the environment must be enabling. Okay. Let us release those that have been released, that have been detained, so that we can come back to the discussing table. As the children begin school, we can now start to discuss the other things. And what I think is that, so far, what this consortium people have done is that, I think their victory... the victory is that this government that has been very intransigent, very opinionated, has been able to sit up and is beginning to hear.
And send people abroad to resolve Cameroonian matters.
So my problem, no, it's a bit, the problem should be solved here. Okay. I don't really quite agree with the missions abroad. The problem should be solved here. This government that has been intransigent, because we got to this because they have been intransigent, opinionated, and not listening to the people. But at least I think for now, for once, this government is listening. My appeal really is that we should give the government some time
to release those people.
To release
behind bars.
No, the release of those people should be immediate. Okay. Yes. For the rest of the things, let us give them 1 or 2 years before we continue with the ghost strikes.
Some may say 1 or 2 more years may block the return to school for kids in the northwest and southwest regions.
I think let us give them some time. Let us give them the release of those people should be immediate.
Okay. In the following bundle is Vox Pops, actually conducted for this edition of Tough Talk by Lambert Kevin. He's a reporter in Kimbo. That's in the northwest region. That's one of the most fertile anti-government sentiment grounds across Cameroon. In the following excerpt, you would hear from someone called Fonjinho Vitalis, Bernard Beng, and Shefai Paul Sunjo. Now let's listen to them. Are they ready to send their children to school come September the 4th?
Yes, I would like to send my child to school, but I'm still doubting whether there will be some security for the child. So I don't know. The only thing is that let the government should do everything so that at least our children should be secure.
Thank you very much. So how many children do you have? How many were schooling?
There are 4 of them.
Okay. And all of them were schooling?
All of them were schooling.
All right.
As for now, we are still waiting on what will come next. Okay. For now, I cannot say that I'm sure to send them. Because if I send them now, if anything happens to them, that is my fault, not the fault of the government. Unless the government make protection for us so that at least we can be sure that my children are safe so that they can go to school and come back. Where I know very well that the government cannot provide security for all of my children. So as for now, I'm still waiting on the government to decide what to do so that I can see whether I will send them or not.
Thank you very much, sir.
I, as a parent, as you rightly put it, for me, I would say yes and no. Yes, because it's my right to make sure my child could be educated. No, because of the present situation, which I want to doubt. For the first situation, when I say yes, as I said, it's a right of a child to be educated. And I see it's also my obligation to make sure my child becomes educated. And if I'm holding the child back, I should question myself, why am I holding the child back? And I feel that if everything is put in place, I should normally send my child to be educated. And when I say everything put in place, I think I'm referring to our present contemporary situation in Cameroon, where we know there is one person who can carry the trump card, who can really set the pace. I think our head of state, if he intervenes in this situation, because there's a cry from every direction, every angle, it's been very abundantly clear that those people who have been arrested, with respect to this issue, could be released. I think if the head of state can hit to that, and only he alone carries that trump card, and he releases these people, I'm sure things will change, and change significantly or not. From that perspective, I can be able to send my child. And then for the other people, who are crying that they should be released, I also condemn one aspect of them. It's not threatening people that will convince people to abide to their goals. They may have something genuine, but my warning is when you keep on threatening people, people start questioning how genuine that aspect is. Then for the other aspect, when I say no, I cannot send, it's just because I doubt this situation. We know that security is guaranteed. The government promises it. But despite that promises, things still happen. So I doubt that security. And I, as a person, for the love I have for the child, for the love I have for my children, I will fear to send the child to school. I think that is the way I'll look as yes or no. I could send, yes. I may not send, depending on the situation which we have contemporary in our society at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
No, why? No, my children, they are not guinea pigs. I cannot send my children as objects or people to be tested. I cannot do that because the government has not provided an enabling environment for children to go to school. We cannot do that. Everybody has spoken that the government should release the teachers and the lawyers and all those related to the Anglophone crisis that they have incarcerated in Yaoundé. But the government is so adamant to it. The government should solve the teachers' problem. The government should solve the lawyers' problem. The people are turning around, going abroad and wasting taxpayers' money. We cannot let them adjust all those issues and engage in the frank and meaningful dialogue so that people can live together. If this country go into two parts, it is the head of state that will be held responsible for carrying this country. It's no other person. We hear that the Eritrean government of Southern Canal has been formed. That is the offshoot of the intransigence of the government. That's an offshoot of Bia's regime. And this is a regime that we should reject because the regime is an anti-people's regime. It's a bad regime.
We cannot take our children as sacrifices.
No, we are not sacrificing. What are you saying? What do you mean by taking children as sacrifices? They cannot pretend that they love or that they have the interest of my child than myself, the father. They cannot. They are playing political gimmicks. They should not take my child for political gimmicks. I would prefer to have my child in the house than send my child to be on a ground which I don't know whether she can be killed or not. Let the government make the environment proper so that people can go. So long as those people are in a jail, nobody is going to school.
Now give us your proposals.
Okay. The first thing, everybody has said it all. 1, release those arrested. 2, take all the military that you have stationed all over into the barracks. Secondly, engage the opposing people in a frank, honest, and God-fearing dialogue, and stop telling lies. Stop moving abroad and misinforming the General Committee, because they are playing gimmicks everywhere. They should not think that they will be doing that to everybody. I am a God-fearing person, and I know my rights. They should not take everybody for a baby. We are not babies. So we would prefer to have our children with us back in the home. When the life is normal, we can send them to school.
Children were not there when this thing started.
Okay, what are you talking about? We were not there when the thing started. Oh, you are saying that I should send my child. Okay, there are checks all over.
But they have said that they have put in place maximum security.
That is a fat lie. Let me tell you, there is just an unlicensed just beside a military, beside a gendarmerie brigade in Bamenda. It was burned, and they are the ones that even burned them. So you are saying, what is happening in Kumu here? Do you know what is happening in Kumu here? So you asked me to send my child to school. Even the schools that were burned in Kumu here, Rokumbo was burned there, the CS Tobin was burned there. It's the forces of law and order of this regime that burned those schools. They are not even those who are saying that they burned it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, that's it.
That was really tough talking there, and I was scared at some point that the interviewee was going to slap reporter Lambert Kevin. Fortunately, that did not happen, but as demonstrated there, it is clear that the future of education across the English-speaking Northwest and Southwest regions remain heavily and solidly hemmed in uncertainty, despite ongoing campaigns aimed at cajoling parents unleash their children for schools which will resume on September 4 nationwide. And the freshest threat, Elie Smith, to the ongoing mobilization for schools resumption is a release from the outlawed consortium stating that there is an increment in the number of ghost town days across Northwest and Southwest regions. Previously, it was only Monday, but this time around they say they'll push it up to 3 days, which means Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays of every week for 2 months until October the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
This is dangerous.
It's dangerous. It's simply because I said when my friend and colleague was on set, Eddy Etawo.
October the 4th,
October the 4th.
Not 24th.
Yeah, because October the 1st is Independence Day.
Independence Day for former West Cameroon.
For former West Cameroon. To remind those Francophones who do not read, who are revisionists, that West Cameroon was a country that united with the Republic of Cameroon in 1961. And saying that now about this upping in the number of days of the ghost towns in West Cameroon is simply because one man who do not want peace in West Cameroon, the only person who doesn't want to solve the problem is called Paul Biya. Because if Paul Biya would have wanted this problem to be solved long time ago, it would have been solved.
That's an emerging threat. We've heard several speakers repeat that.
Yeah, and now the other thing he did, which we had said here with Kejang before, we were prophets of doom, that you cannot get up and fund people around the world when at home you are ignoring those people who initiated the whole show.
Whose demands you are currently unlocking?
Yes, you are currently unlocking, even though we know that it's not really been done as we had wanted. Because when you say you have a a common law bench at the Supreme Court, right? You
don't need a bench.
We don't need a bench because
you need a whole, an entire.
You read an entire, because the thing is that they have put the common law there as the same as you have. It's a kind of department with the whole thing. The whole thing is that it's French dominating. This country is not a French-speaking country entirely. You have to respect the English-speaking culture and the French-speaking culture.
Okay.
If it is not like that, we are going to break up, because you cannot force.
Who are you? We are going to break up.
The English-speaking. I mean, I am Anglophone. I cannot come here and refuse myself. I'm not Peter. I will not deny myself here, because you will not live in a marriage where your husband keeps on beating you or your wife cheats on you, and you there, I will stay there because I have children. No.
The International Crisis Group, however, says that the possibility of a split up between former West and East Cameroon is not feasible in the very near future. And I'm sorry for brutally.
There's no problem.
Brutally taking the floor from you. Well, the release is jointly signed by Tassan Wilfred, who passes for Deputy Secretary of the Outlawed Consortium, Henry, as well as Barrister Eyambe Elias, who are both on the run. It is a clear plot to frustrate any attempts at school resumption in the Northwest and Southwest. It's even more than a frustration attempt.
It is more of frustration because don't forget that Tasang was the key player, you know, on the part of the teachers. And Atembeh was one of the key players.
After what some called a sellout by
the Tame, Valentines, and the others we know. Well, that's what you really put it, the term is sellout. Well, 3 days extension of the ghost town will mean 3 days staying at home. And you see, generally the country Sundays tough, that is to say, sitting back at home on Mondays. People plan their market days on Saturdays and Sundays, and then they sit at home on Monday. Now, if it has to extend, well, that would mean closing down shops, and then
no traffic circulation.
People will be going. That would mean disturbing businesses as a whole and the operations of things. Government offices, maybe some will be opened, but the banks that are similarly or accepting the ghost town will certainly not be able to serve the people, and it will give more time for people to go to their farms.
These people you are mentioning are expected to stay home from 6 at dusk to 6
dawn. Yes,
no, from 6 at dawn to 6 at dusk.
At dusk, good.
From morning till
evening. Morning till evening. I don't know when it begins. I've forgotten the.
It begins on the 14th of August, and the release invites parents across these regions to stockpile supplies of food. Elie Smith, this is painful, but it is the truth. The poor are going to be the hardest hit in this unfolding scenario.
Yeah, I'll be a little bit sadistic in this thing, like as though I'm heartless. Have you ever seen a poor man raise a revolution one day? No. For the leftists, I'm not a fan. Che Guevara, the Argentine medical doctor, he became a medical doctor. Karl Marx. I think people who have money are the ones who have to think to lead a revolution.
And the poor people execute.
And the poor people execute.
The poor
because
people then are those who are.
No, it's for the. It's no.
The bloodshed is not for the rich; it's for the poor.
No, it's for their. It's for their good. You know, if you want to go to heaven, you have to die. You will not want to go to heaven, and you don't want to die.
Kejang Henry, I think it's disturbing to an extent that people have, in quote, what some call political ambitions, and they let the poorest people suffer. Because the guy who is going to feel the biggest pinch in all of this is the lady who sells pepper along the streets, is the guy who runs from Mamfe to Bamenda with tomatoes and so on to sell to Nigeria and so on.
Yes.
These are not the guys who have money to send their children to school in Europe or the United States, for example.
Nobody has.
Or those in the United States who have their children
who has
comfortably going to school.
In this case, and in your question, who has the political ambition?
Who has?
Is Tasang having any political ambition because they were the ones? Is Bala having any political ambition for them, etc., or the myriad of those who are behind it? No, I think if we were talking about the political ambition, gunning for an appointment, those who are actually gunning for the political ambition, it should be one Paul Gogomu, who is already a prime minister.
Self-rule, Henry.
Yeah,
self-rule.
Political ambition. It might not be. It might not be. They might not be the ones. They might not be the ones. But it is true, like it is said, nobody goes to heaven without passing through death. Even Jesus Christ did before transfigured. Nobody is. I say this. Nobody is willing to keep the children back home. Now, on the 14th, as I hear, if the parents hit, I don't know 14 which day, it can be a Monday or Tuesday, I don't know which particular day, because I didn't verify my calendar. If it is a Monday, then it will mean that, well, they respect generally their Monday ghost town. And if it extends to Tuesday, then we'll start asking questions.
That's what the release says.
That's
Unfortunately, we don't have a printed copy.
No.
But it says it's 3 days
it's 3 days. They meet
until the 4th
of October. But then the government should start thinking.
14th of October.
Don't forget, I remember when because we have information that, well, the place has been strongly militarized. Okay, and if
that's according to the Post.
According to the Post, which means they have an information which is correct. But don't forget that the people who say they want to go on ghost town are preparing themselves.
Elie Smith, Kejang Henry, just hold a minute. The school blockade has fueled the germination of delinquency. drug consumption has witnessed an exponential explosion, unwanted pregnancies, banditry, collapsed businesses. That's a price that's unbearable to pay. That's
scaremongering on your part, because I've not seen the statistic that you've carried out to show me that a number of girls have become pregnant, that banditry has increased.
Governor Okala actually said this recently, as well as his colleague from the Northwest region, Elie Lafrique.
Is Okala Bilai a credible person? This is a man who conducts...
At least the governor of the Southwest region.
Well, that's a man, you know there's supposed to be truth, to be honest, right? If the governors of the Northwest and Southwest provinces were Mr. Elie Lafrique, we wouldn't have had a lot of problems, because that man, the only crime he has is that he's a CPDM appointee. The thing now is, I think there is a problem we have to understand. The only person who is responsible for what is going on in West Cameroon is called Paul Biya. And everybody wants that people to go to school. My question I would like to ask you, you are the anchor of this program.
It's called Toughtalk, and we want to be as blunt and as fair
I want to ask all those people of the government. Then the other day I was on the set on STV with Achu Julius running
council for the two-man consortium of parents dragging clergymen to court.
Good. Have you not asked your question, why is this thing succeeding? It's not the diaspora. Is that ordinary people that you seem to love too much, those mothers selling papa and tomatoes,
and of course
who are the ones supporting it. The thing is that if you are a good journalist, go on the field. There's a journalist who came from France, Cyril Ben Simon. He went all the way to Bamenda, to the base, and I was really surprised when I read it. And it came from a woman saying that I am a teacher. I'm not sending my child to school because I am Anglophone. We have been marginalized in this country. So this thing is a popular movement, and that only Paul Biya can solve it.
In terms of palliatives and antidotes, Kejang Henry, would you buy the standpoint of, that trickled from a recent CPDM conclave at the Nkwen Funds Palace in Bamenda, that vigilante groups should be set up to man the campuses? Why? So students going to school shouldn't be attacked?
Vigilante group, who's going to bear such a risk? The government has money to plant military officers across the schools. If you are talking, how many people?
We've seen soldiers planted around
but
school
you are talking about when that is the
minister didn't go back to school.
That is the president, how you call him, the chief of Nkwen, right? The founder of Nkwen. Do you know how many schools exist in Bamenda? We are talking about Bamenda as chief town of the Northwest region. All the primary schools, all the secondary, high schools, and all the confessional schools and professional institutions. How many of the vigilante members will be able to ensure security? The security should be ensured by the state, and that the first security should be the dialogue security. Okay. Because just say, okay, this thing should end. And I want to say this very quickly, that my fear is that when the trial will be coming up again on the 25th and the 31st of August, because at the 31st of August,
even of the resumption
of schools, then people will now know what was underlying in the postponement or the adjournment of the trial. And incidentally, on that date, since people want to go for election, I think that 31st is the date Elecam will be closing its registers.
You mean which people want to go for elections, Henry?
I mean your country.
Okay. Elie Smith, just rush you over to the United Nations, where the Paul Gogo Momingo led a delegation from Cameroon to go explain the contours and impacts of the Anglophone crisis, met with Deputy United Nations Secretary General, who urged the government of Cameroon, through them, the emissaries, to de-escalate the current tensions in the former West Cameroon. It's a bite and blow approach by the United Nations. They could wade in like they did to have the internet restored.
Yes, but I think the United Nations wants to give a benefit of the doubt to this government, and they're asking them to de-escalate. So it is kind of a trap set to them, right? Because if you want to de-escalate, you don't create vigilante groups, which in my opinion is a recipe for chaos, because violence begets violence. When you create your vigilante group, another vigilante group will come up. So I think that they went to the United Nations listened to them, but the United Nations know that this is a group of arrogant, incompetent, primitive people who will never be willing to do anything open. But I think For the benefit of the doubt, the United Nations allowed them, tell them, go and de-escalate the situation, but they are not de-escalating. They are arresting people, the JCs of Argentina. If you paint your colors of your house in green and white, sky blue and white, you are suspected to be a member of the SDF or a member of the SCNC. So that is it's a kind of a story that, look, we can debate here till tomorrow. There's only one thing. There's no magic wand. But
the United Nations is the epitome of diplomacy, Henry, and they couldn't go beyond diplomacy in this case.
Beyond diplomacy, that is to what do you mean by that? They could go beyond diplomacy to come and divide the country or to come and solve the problem.
All right.
No, they have given an assignment to the Gogomu-led team to come back home because they already know they have their mission here. The United Nations mission, come back home and engage substantive negotiations, dialogue. The message is clear. It's not, we were not there when they were discussing these things. Now they have brought them out to the public, which means that we are expecting them, the Gogomus. But now at the end of the day, will you say it was a successful mission? Yes or no?
We will come back to the missions abroad in Tuesday's edition of Toughtalk. In the meantime, stay blessed and run from trouble on the double, especially if you live in the English-speaking Northwest and Southwest regions. Patrick Chamani, Emmanuel Bivika, Roland Lebja were on the machines and the cameras. We had on board Eddy Etawo of the Star headlines. I think I'm correct. We also had the Star, right? Headlines has been stripped from the nomenclature of that newspaper. Lambert Kevin contributed massively from Kimbo in the Northwest Province. And of course, unfortunately, we couldn't get clean lines to Nkor, where Mayor Francis Wache was standing by with contributions. We promise to get back to you, sir, in our next edition of the show. Until then, bye-bye.